some of those emergency talks on Ukraine have been happening on the sidelines of a summit of EU and African Union leaders in Luanda, Angola. And while Ukraine's taken some of the focus away from the agenda, leaders have also talked trade, security and migration. Collectively, the EU constitutes the African continent's most important trading partner. The AU-EU summit is the seventh in the 25 years of partnership between the two blocs. Leaders are hoping the meeting will help deepen ties. Let's get more on this from Tighisti Amare, who's director of the Africa programme at the Chatham House International think tank in London. Welcome to DW. So 25 years, as I say, of this cooperation between these two blocs. Is this partnership equal?
Thank you for having me. So it is very difficult to define the partnership as equal. One of the most complicating factors in the relation for many years has been that of a donor-recipient relation, which has complicated the partnership between between Africa and the EU. But it is still a very important partnership. And as you mentioned, the EU still remains the largest trading partner for the African continent.
And does that apparent inequality matter? Does it matter that Africa is the recipient and that Europe is the donor?
Well, it does matter when you're trying to forge a partnership of equal, meaning when you're trying to solve shared problems in through politics and diplomacy. So that is very important. But it is also important because because of the history and because of the many challenges that two continents have had. This comes back again in terms of how migration is viewed within Europe. It has become a politically very sensitive and an internal politics within Europe, but less so for Africa. So trying to find a joint solutions for joint problems becomes much more complicated when that kind of history and inequality plays.
Let's talk about who wants what. Talk us through the African Union's key priorities.
For the African Union, obviously for member states of the African Union, priorities are effectively creating the millions of jobs required within the continent for a growing population. It's about creating infrastructure, connectivity within the continent, regional integration, and economic growth. That means creating the jobs means creating industries, creating processing units within the African continent. And in essence, there's an opportunity for more partnership between Africa and Europe, also on this shared interests within Africa, because migration itself, which you brought up, migration does not need to be such a divisive issue between the two continents. Essentially, Africa has a growing population, and that means also a bigger market for European industries. It also means that there is an opportunity for creating manufacturing within Africa that for European goods. And so creating those jobs also means less migration into Europe, which is a win-win for both.
But doesn't that play into the donor-recipient relationship that you started off criticising? This would be countries in Africa accepting European-financed factories on their own land. So we don't really move to a position of equals, do we? We just have Europe putting money into Africa, Africa sending cheap goods back to Europe.
It does not. It's not the same, really. It's not about development aid. We're talking about industries, trade, and investment in jobs. And there is a sign that the EU is going into that direction at the moment. The EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced that the EU was already on track of achieving its target to spend 150 billion of the as part of the 150 billion by 2027 as part of the Global Gateway project. And this is for investments in infrastructure, in energy, in digital connectivity, pharmaceutical value chain, all of the industries that can create the much needed jobs within the continent. But in terms of building manufacturing within Africa, that is also an important part of additional jobs that can be created.
Right.
At the moment, most African countries.
Sorry, I just wanted to get one last question in. And we see that the continent has emerged as a battleground for its critical minerals. Is enough being done to ensure that countries where those minerals are found actually reap benefits from this?
Not yet. That is the ambition of many governments within Africa, that value chains can be created so that they can keep the majority of the economic benefits from critical minerals. But this is still a work in progress,
Right.
and an area for sure where the EU can be a crucial partner for African countries.
Thank you so much for joining us, Tighisti Amare from Chatham House.
Thank you.